Now that case about the needs of children may not impress seminarians, but if you go to Scripture and you find that not only are children present in Scripture, they're very prominent. Most seminary academic deans will know that when the disciples are having an argument, who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom, Jesus placed a child in the midst. Unless you become like that child, never mind being the greatest in the kingdom, you're not even going to get there. Most seminary deans and presidents know that when the parents were bringing the children to Jesus, the disciples were keeping them away. And in Mark chapter 10, we find that Jesus was angry. He was indignant. You'll not keep the children from coming to me. Just on the previous pages of the Bible, I showed you, children are important to me. Most seminary presidents know at least those scriptures, and maybe a handful of others. But most of them don't know that, in fact, there's more than 1,400 references to children throughout Scripture. And children have an ongoing role in the outworking of the manifestation of the kingdom in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. 1,400 references where children are participating in the rituals of the faith. God is using them for His purposes. He's using them as examples, as signs of the upside-down kingdom where the little are big and the weak are strong, the proud are made humble and the humble are exalted, and where it's not what's on the outside that matters, but what's on the inside that matters. That kingdom that He inaugurated, Jesus inaugurated when He came, is exemplified by the child. If you're talking about kingdom issues, you'll almost always hear that the kingdom is already and not yet. It's already here. Anytime we do some good works for someone, we give a cup of cold water to someone, we're manifesting the kingdom at hand. But we also know that it's not yet. There are still many people that don't believe. There's still sin and evil and ugliness in the world. Well, what better example of the kingdom than a child? Already and not yet. Already here, already valuable, already precious in God's sight, made in His image, not because, and precious not because of anything they've done or anything they will be, but because of their essence, because of who they are. But they're also not yet. What better illustration of the upside-down kingdom, or that already and not yet, than a child? Already here, valuable and precious, not because of what they are, who they will be, but because of their essence, because they exist. But they're also not yet. We don't know what their potential is, and every one of them has unique possibilities and potential. So the more we know about the kingdom, the more we understand the child. And if we want to understand the child, we study the kingdom. So as we begin to present this sort of thing in the seminaries, then they see that this is something that is not only legitimate at the seminary level, but it's quite strategic at the seminary level. We also often talk about children in need as a reason to care for them. But in fact, all children are at risk. It's not just the poor. They have everything to live with, but they've got nothing to live for. And young people today are aimless and without purpose and very, very much at risk. The postmodern worldview has done away with God a long time ago, and now we find that the world is not getting better. We can't improve it with all our smarts and all the application of our social theories and everything. World War I comes along, World War II, AIDS and everything else. And so young people now, they've already done away with God. Well, what do they live for now? And so every child is at risk. And so it's not just the poor that seminaries need to give attention to, but all of the children. So the programming in holistic child development addresses the child, and the child in Scripture begins to explore some of these passages of Scripture, when we find that many of these passages have theological significance, things that we had ignored before. Some of the passages have missiological importance, and we can learn about missions. We can develop strategies around what we're learning about the child in Scripture. We know that Jesus placed a child in the midst. I often talk about reading Scripture with the child in the midst. Children are everywhere in Scripture, but instead of just passing over it, why not pay attention? Why don't we zero in? Why is this child here? What can we learn about this child? And very often we'll find that there's something quite significant. And God is using this child or working through this child or using the child as an illustration in some very significant ways.